Hey! Excuse me for a moment. Okay. Hang on, things. We're just trying to get something. We're just trying to download something. So just hang on a second. Oh, if you're watching this, you could put the comment. You could have a. The link is in the comments if you want to join. Just click on that comment and just hanging around, I guess. I don't care what. Anyways, here's this meme that I'm gonna show you. Here it is. That's a very good remix, don't you think? Oh, yeah, dynamite. I. Stop doing that. Damn it. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm gonna read this. So I'm gonna read this out. When I was a kid, I enjoyed watching a lot of Baby Einstein. It had lots of great colors, music, and characters. However, one episode that traumatized me was Baby Mozart. What traumatized me, you might be asking? Well, there's one scene where there's a puppet of a dog in a black background, and the dog's barking always scared me. I was scared of it until some point in 2011. Again, however, this isn't what I mean exactly. This is a story of how that dog got more insane. It was Saturday for me, and I was playing in my room, and I was in my room playing some PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. Oh, welcome to the stream, guys.
Okay, I finally found the Playboy cardi one.
Yeah, where is it? Could you put it in the private chat?
I'm writing it down right now. Okay, I wrote in the private chat.
Okay.
It was the one that Puz read.
I'll look at it on YouTube.
It's on the Spin Pasta Wiki, I think.
What, Playboy Cardi?
Yeah, the one where he gets attacked by a bird.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it got took it down because of the fact it was a shit post.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay, so when I saw my mom come into the room, she said that there's a store down in Puyallup, Washington, that still sells videotapes. I asked if we can go there, and she said that it was on her mind today. We got to this store called Habitat for Humanity, which is very much like a thrift store. I was lucky to find the VHS section near one of the windows. I picked up some interesting tapes like Thomas the Magic Railroad, that SpongeBob SquarePants movie, Dora the Explorer moved to the music, and others. And then I noticed that there was a Baby Mozart VHS. The tape was a Family Home Entertainment release. Before going back to my mother, I went to the cash register and paid for the stuff I got. My mom was later unimpressed by what I found. When I got home later that afternoon, I took the tapes to the shed and inserted the Baby Mozart VHS into my TV with the built-in VCR. Everything was going absolutely normal, up until the scene with the dog. The change I noticed, there was no maracas heard in the background. The maracas, I think, were the songs the dog makes while moving around. The scene lasted for about 13 seconds before the dog automatically jumped out in front of the screen doing his usual bark. I jumped at that point because it was seriously unexpected. He didn't even walk away before getting whistled out like he did. Instead, he just jumped down for 1 second and grabbed what looked like a sign with writing on it. The sign said, "The Clarks must die." Seeing that sent a chill down my spine. I questioned, whatever did Julie do to the dog puppet that makes me want to kill her? As soon as the dog walked away from the screen, it showed what appeared to be a house at night instead of the animal faces that were originally seen. The house looked like it was a two-story place, and the patio lights had a red glow to it. I couldn't really tell if it was Juliana Clark's house, or maybe it was someone else's. Some sinister music that sounded almost way too close to the Five Nights at Freddy's 4 title screen they kept to play, which was making me confused. The camera then panned to the show road where the dog puppet was seen on the bottom motion-controlled toy robot. It seemed that the street lights also had a red glow. The dog then walked over to the door of the house, as if the camera person followed it along. It seemed that the door was up halfway open, as if Julie or her daughter Aspen didn't bother closing it all the way. The dog looked from left to right multiple times while I could hear a conversation involving the two women I just mentioned. Here's how the conversation went. Julie: okay, sweetie, Mommy's gonna go to bed since I've got quite a busy day at work tomorrow. You think you can handle taking a bath all by yourself without my help? Yes, Mommy, I love you. Love you too. Don't spend too long in the bath. Good night. Good night, Mommy. The hand of the cameraman told the dogs in sign language that he will take him up the stairs. He then grabbed him and they went up. It was unclear if Aspen was already in the bathroom at the time. Suddenly, they saw the door that was to the bathroom that was also half open. So the cameraman then put the camera on the floor and the dog remained there. At this point, I knew this scene was supposed to represent the dog and the camera person staring at Aspen take photo, which gives me a disgusted feeling. Aspen then walked into the bathroom, turned on the tap, and proceeded to take off her clothes. The scene lasted for about 4 minutes, which felt boring. It slowly reminded me of the opening scene of Chucky, where Glenn kills Claudia's parents. By the time, uh, by the time Aspen got into the tub, the cameraman stood up, making Aspen look at him. "Hey, mister, would you help me clean myself?" Aspen asked. He didn't say anything. The dog then let out the same bark from earlier, and Aspen then said, "Oh, I know this dog. Mommy used it for baby Mozart. But why is it on the body of a toy robot?" Julie, for some reason, was able to hear this and walked to the bathroom while saying, "Aspen, can, er, Aspen, can you keep your voice down a bit? You know I have to work too." She then saw the cameraman and asked, I'm sorry. Uh, the dog then barked again, making Julie jump. She looked behind her
I
and
might
saw
go
that the
now
dog.
because I have low battery now on my iPad.
Oh, okay. The dog then barked again, making Julie jump. She looked behind her and saw that the dog was carrying a knife, making her scream. Aspen, what is going on? Julie asked in a scared manner. I have no idea, Aspen replied. Suddenly the dog used the knife on Julie and stabbed her on the heel, which made her fall to the ground. The cameraman then grabbed Julie by the hair and slammed her head back and forth on the tub, making Aspen scream in a blood-curdling tone. In fact, the scream was so loud I felt the urge to cover my ears. As soon as the scream ended, Julie was already dead. Aspen then began crying. Seeing her crying made me feel really sorry for the loss of her mother, unless, of course, this was just scripted. Why did you murder my mother? Aspen in a sad tone. The cameraman then finally said his first words, saying, Stand up, you're in a lot of trouble. As he did this, he dropped the camera, landing on a folded towel that there in some funny and odd way. But I didn't do anything wrong, Aspen said. Before doing anything to Aspen, the cameraman went to adjust the camera. At that moment, I knew to be seeing Aspen's death live on camera. The dog then gave them the camera person the knife from earlier. Aspen let out another blood-curdling scream. The knife ended up going through her mouth, which startled me very hard. Aspen and Julie were dead. The screen then faded to black. It was like this for about 3 seconds before red text appeared, saying, You shouldn't have been afraid of me at all. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done this. The dog. I was rather terrified and confused at the same time, because it was mentioning me, or was it also a message for those who are also afraid of the dog? The text faded out and stayed black for 10 seconds. Seeing this black screen was giving me the feeling that a jump scare would appear, and I was so right. After 10 seconds, it showed what appeared to be a doll's face. The doll was very much similar to the one from Language Nursery. Uh, the change that the doll's eyes were black with no pupils and it was crying blood. She was also dripping blood from the mouth. In the background was a very loud scream of a female, which sent another chill down my spine and almost made me fall out of my seat. As soon as the jump scare ended, the VHS ended for real. I was scared shitless. I immediately took out the VHS and began smashing it. Later on, I decided to watch some Horseland episodes on YouTube to calm down over that tape. I kind of wanted to get in touch with Julie and her clerk about it, but she would probably have no idea what I was talking about. Come to think of it, I'm not sure if I could see Baby Mozart the same way again. Oh, the blue yak is here. Alright, so here's Teletubbies. You may have heard of the original Teletubbies that used to air on most kids' channels from 97 to 2001. That show caused a lot of popularity and even had a reboot in 2015 and is now on with new episodes and characters such as the Tiddly-Tubbies. But let's get onto the topic of how I saw a demented episode of the original Teletubbies. I used to be a fan of Teletubbies when I was little. The show was all colorful and weird, but not as scary as that one episode that had the lion and bear magical event. It was a sunny day, and I was in the backyard playing around a metal detector to find something interesting buried in the soil. Wait, I'll do this in a British accent. As the detector beefed on a coffee table that was sitting there on the grass, I dug it up with a spade, and my eyes caught up a Teletubbies VHS tape with his case, and I know, pretty generic. Just some VHS tape buried in the soil. No, I don't. No, I can't do the British accent. Uh, okay. This unknown Teletubbies VHS I found was called Yoga and Other Stories. The VHS consisted of the Teletubbies in an orange background, with Tinky Winky living close to the cover with the other Teletubbies inches away from him. It even had the old school BBFCU rating and BBC logo from 1997 to right now on. On the back of the cover, the episodes were Yoga, Naughty Soap, Apple Pie, and one unheard episode with a strange title called Anger Management. Okay, so it's about how to let out anger, I thought. Pretty interested to see it. I rushed towards my room and put it in my VCR. The logos, promos, and the first 3 episodes were normal, but the last episode was shocking and messed up to see. It started with the normal theme song, but the scene where the voice trumpet rises is different. Instead of saying, "Where have the Teletubbies gone?" it said this: "There are 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance." Okay, then what is going on? I questioned myself, feeling curious and weirded out. It was out of the ordinary for the voice trumpet to say that. It cussed a Tinky Winky walking down the grassy hills with flowers in a depressed manner. I don't know what was his deal, but I continued forward. Tinky Winky then sat on the grass and began to cry for some unknown reason. It didn't sound like anything usual at all. It didn't sound like acting at all. Likewise, it sounded very genuine. The surrounding environment was almost dark and depressing as it was of a cloudy day. "One day in Teletubby Land, Tinky Winky is very upset today," the narrator spoke suddenly. It only worsened. His crying was more pained, and he was banging one of his fists on the grass in true anger and depression. This isn't the usual Teletubby norm at all. No other Teletubby came to comfort Tinky Winky as his behavior worsened in this scene. Why was he upset? I questioned curiously. What'd they ever do to him? Later, the windmill began spinning, preparing for a TV event. Tinky Winky stopped crying in his brutally depressed attitude and said, "Uh-oh," in his usually normal tone. He ran towards where the other Teletubbies sat. Lala was chosen for the TV event. The TV event was oddly cynical and dark for a preschooler show. It consisted of a depressed little boy watching TV in the living room, with his parents realistically and loudly arguing in the kitchen for some reason. They were talking about how their marriage became a failure. The boy had nothing to do but harm himself in front of his parents. The boy then ran to the kitchen and screamed so loud that it was known to damage my hearing. I covered my ears as it goes on. As I uncovered after he screamed, as I and there some blood on the palm of my hands. Dang! Bloody hell! I yelled angrily. That scream from that kid got me deaf! The boy was throwing a fit of rage, telling his parents to shut up and other things. This kind of action for a kid was out of the ordinary and way too violent. I've heard of that one episode of Caillou where the main character from the same name throws a tantrum wanting to go to the circus right now. The tantrum was not as bad as the one I'm watching. The boy attempted to beat his parents for their behavior, but the mother, however, grabbed the kid and was flailing around screaming and still threatening his parents. The act was all too real. He was then put in his room and the mother told him that he will never come out until his behavior changed. Okay, this episode has something to do with anger management, huh? I thought to myself. Then the TV event ended. The Tubbies seemed very worried about what happened in the TV event. It cuts to the second Tubbies segment, where the Teletubbies were at the house having Tubby custard. They enjoyed it, except for Tinky Winky. He's still not in the mood to drink his Tubby custard. Lala walked up to him and said, "Why Tinky Winky not drinking Tubby custard?" "Tinky Winky is not in a good mood, Lala," the narrator answered. Then Tinky Winky, in a fit of rage, hits Lala on the head with the Tubby custard, causing it to break and spill all over her. "Why, Tinky Winky? Uh-oh." Why, Tinky Winky?" Dipsy shouted in shock. "Uh-oh," Po said worriedly. "Tinky Winky sad, Tinky Winky mad." Tinky Winky snapped as he ran away from the house crying realistically. "Seems that Tinky Winky snapped," the narrator concluded. Lala got up pretty injured and asked, "Why Tinky Winky snap?" "I don't know, Lala," the narrator answered. They got out of the house to find Tinky Winky, which turned out unsuccessful. The environment is still dark and depressing. The search goes on, and I'm starting to feel real bored. Finally, one Teletubby, Dipsy, found Tinky Winky in the forest facing away. "Dipsy found Tinky Winky." "Yes," and Dipsy said. "Yes, Dipsy found Tinky Winky," the narrator said. "Tinky Winky okay?" Dipsy said curiously as it cut to a point of view of him. As Dipsy tapped Tinky Winky, what I saw scared the crap out of me as he turned to face Dipsy. Tinky Winky's face looked unusually horrifying. His skin was as white as a snowman, and his face resembled a demonic, inhuman being with black holes for eyes, and his mouth was open like he was screaming, exposing pink gums, white teeth, and a black tongue inside it. He also looked like as if he was possessed. I was not ready for the scene to happen. Tinky Winky just let out a blood-curdling scream as he looked like that. It wasn't his voice screaming it like in the Lion and Bear episode. It sounded like a woman screaming like in one of those horror movies. I covered my ears again, even though they were still bleeding, but I'm still okay. Dipsy screamed in fright and runs off towards his friends. Then Tinky Winky started chasing Dipsy. still screaming. It cuts to Lala and Po searching for Tinky Winky, but turned out it's still no good. Dipsy ran into the scene and told the two Tubbies that Tinky Winky was insane and is no longer happy self. Then the now demonic Tinky Winky appeared and ran towards the three Teletubbies. He let out that same blood-curdling scream from before as he just appeared behind the three Tubbies. The Tubbies, except for Poe, ran away screaming realistically. Poe was grabbed by Tinky Winky by her leg and dragged her towards a tree. The tree looked similar to the magic tree from that episode called Lambs. Except it wasn't computer generated, but a realistic proportion of it. On that tree was a noose that came out of nowhere. Poe was flailing around as Tinky Winky used the noose and hangs the ladder with it as she coughs up blood from her mouth while screaming in pain. Poe then died. Because to Dipsy and Lala, running and screaming in fear as the demonic Tinky Winky appeared behind them, letting out that same blood-curdling scream. Lala slips over a puddle of air for some strange reason. Then Tinky Winky grabs Lala by her legs and pins her to the ground. He then stabs her in the chest with a thick but sharp and pointy stick as she grunts in agony. Lala then died. It cuts to Dipsy running into the house, trying not to be found by the deranged Tinky Winky who went on a murder spree. He hid behind one of the beds as the demented Tinky Winky runs into the house, letting out that scream again. The Nunu appeared behind Tinky Winky, disturbing him. He then kicked the Nunu so hard that it started to malfunction and run around in circles like crazy. Tinky Winky found Dipsy hiding behind one of the beds. The former then grabs and pins the ladder to the floor and strongly and graphically pulls his head off from his body. Dipsy then died. Tinky Winky then breaks the Tubby Custard Machine and even Tubby Toaster with his mighty rage, causing a house fire to happen. Then the interior of the house is almost catching fire from the broken machinery as Tinky Winky escapes. It cuts to the Sun Baby. She starts crying at the disaster that happened to the Teletubbies. The way the baby cries has seen death in her eyes. It was all too real to be a spoof, thinking it was a good idea to make and release this onto a VHS tape, or even DVD for that matter. It cuts to the Tubby Bye Bye segment where the voice trumpet says, instead of saying time for Tubby Bye Bye 3 times, it says this: Tinky Winky has lost it now. There's nothing we can do to stop him. It then cuts to the credits. It then cuts to the credits where the fire was barely seen inside the Teletubbies' house. All the Teletubbies were dead except for Tinky Winky, who has become a demonic entity who killed them all and lurks around Teletubby Land. The editing, however, was in a slow and unnerving pulse stretch filter, giving it a nightmarish atmosphere. The Sun Baby was still crying as she sets as the credits rolled. Then the episode ended. After it ended, it showed the Ragdoll and BBC logos, but the former was in grayscale and dark, and what was behind the latter had a dark red glow. Then cut to the 1997 BBC closing logo, except it was solarized and had an unnerving red filter over it, and even the music had a deep demonic harmony filter with reverb over it that cut to black. I always wanted to see something unusual during the few minutes on a black screen. Unfortunately, it did. I was jump scared by that same demonic Tinky Winky face with that same screaming sound. I was frightened. I rewound the tape as my mom arrived from shopping. I told her about the messed up Teletubbies tape with its innocent cover I found. I showed her the footage and she believed me. The only evidence I showed you the screenshots of that snuff episode before my mom burned the tape with its casing. I think this episode took place on How It Happened from a Slender parody horror game called Slendytubbies. In fact, it did. I had a nightmare when I was in Teletubby Land at night, with the 3 Teletubbies dead and the house still on fire. The demonic Tinky Winky was also here lurking. I was a white individual Teletubby trying to find bowls of Tubby custard lying around until I was caught by the deranged Tinky Winky letting out that same blood-curdling scream. As he finally killed me, I woke up screaming, waking for my mom for comfort and help. I was taken to therapy after that horrible experience. Who would make such a high snuff episode of one of those shows made for preschoolers and children alike? We don't know, but the questions inside my head remain unanswered. The making of the episode was still a mystery. Check out part 2 at Teletubbies The Aftermath.
My, that was wild.
This one is part 2. You think that one episode of Teletubbies I've been watched was disturbing and messed up? Guess again. My mom and I have gone to the cinema to see Spark, A Space Tale, one of the most ambitious animated movies of the modern era. After we got out of the cinema as we finished the movie, I noticed a box that was in the shape and size of a VHS tape left on the ground behind the trash cans for some reason. I asked my mom if I could pick up that box since had a VHS tape inside. She agreed as I picked up and then head home. I opened the box and it was revealed to be another Teletubbies tape. The VHS with its casing was called Lambs and Other Stories. The cover consisted of the Teletubbies behind the magic tree, with Tinky Winky and Dipsy close to the corner cover, Poe and Lala in front of the tree, inches away from the two male Tubbies. Like the previous cover on the yoga tape, which had the anger management episode, it had the primitive BBFCU rating and present BBC logo. On the back of the cover, the episodes were Lambs, music were Debbie, Naughty Sock, and one that had a strange and unheard title called The Aftermath. Holy crap, is it a sequel to that last demented episode I watched? I hope it's not even worse, I thought worriedly. I put the tape in my VCR, expecting a facade to happen in that final episode. Everything, including the logos and promos, were normal. So did the first 3 episodes. However, the last episode was just the horror show to the max. As the episode started, the intro was different. It started where the Sun Baby rises, but the latter was replaced with a new character, the Moon Baby, played by another newborn actor, who is a male baby I've never heard of. The Moon Baby had no expression as just looked at the camera, not even laughing or even crying. It was all nighttime and dark as the Moon Baby rose. It cut to where the Teletubbies' house is. The house seemed normal, but not burned down like in that terrible episode I seen last time. As the Teletubbies jumped out of the hole from the house, they looked entirely different as well. Tinky Winky had the same frightening face from the last episode and let out that same blood-curdling scream from before as he appeared, only it was shortened. The other Teletubbies, Dipsy, Lala, and Poe that were deceased appeared as ghosts, which were glowing and had their colors faded out. The 3 ghost Tubbies looked bloodied, alas the ghost of Dipsy's head was missing due to decapitation. The logo appeared with the balloon sounds, but instead of saying Teletubbies, it said Slendytubbies, the name of the Slender-inspired parody horror game. A demonic voice was heard saying the name out loud. It got me confused as the logo exploded, starting the theme song. It went normal with the changes, but the song, however, was demonically low-pitched, and a maniacal laugh would be heard whenever the Tubbies said, hello, or uh-oh, I should add. The laugh sounded similar to Stitch's laugh from Lilo and Stitch. As the theme song ended, the voice trumpet rose and said this, Tinky Winky is around here somewhere in Teletubby Land, lurking. After the voice trumpet said that, it cut to the grassy hills with the narrator saying, one night in Teletubby Land, new visitors are coming to see what's going on. Then 4 new and unknown Teletubby characters arrived. The first one was a pink female Teletubby with an antenna in the shape of a heart. She had the same skin tone as Dipsy's, and she was similar to Poe. The second one, was an orange female Teletubby with an antenna in the shape of a Y, as she was similar to Lala. The third one was a blue male Teletubby with an antenna in the shape of a T, and he was similar to Tinky Winky. The fourth but last one was a white male Teletubby wearing a hat that looked like Dipsy's, hiding what seemed to be his antenna, and he was unlike the other Teletubbies. But he seemed to be the Sherlock Holmes of Teletubbyland, or the player from the Teletubbies game. He was holding what looked like a flashlight that seemed to be lit. Okay. The new Teletubbies, not the white one, looked like one of those silly unofficial OCs you'd see on DeviantArt or any other social media site. Uh-oh, they said. Please introduce yourselves, the narrator commanded. First, the pink female Teletubby. Laffy Duffy. Secondly, the orange female Teletubby. Vixel. Wait, Vixie. Thirdly, the blue male Teletubby. Ratter. And the last one goes to the white male Teletubby, but instead of a silly and distinctive name, meaning that he didn't have one, just 2 words of who he is. Guardian Tubby. After they introduced themselves, the windmill spins, preparing for the TV event. The 4 new Tubbies, named Lovey-Dovey, Vixie, Ratter, and Guardian Tubby, run up to a hill where the usual Teletubbies should be for the said event. Vixie, however, was chosen for the TV event, and what I saw was something haunting and unexplainable. The TV event consisted of what looked like to be a paranormal recording, which depicted a cameraman exploring an abandoned school during dusk. As the exploration went on, the cameraman came across what seemed to be a child standing and crying in the hallway. A child in question appeared to be the same boy from that TV event in the last Demented episode. Okay. Are you okay? The cameraman asked in a deep monotone. No, the boy said through sobs. The boy stated that he wanted to see his mother again, saying that he hated being in this school. He said he was bullied a lot by other kids one time and got in trouble for retaliation. Oddly enough, the cameraman laughed, not in a humorous way, but it was haunting and sinister. So you got bullied, huh? Let's make it 100 times worse for you. The cameraman maniacally yelled as he pulled out a knife. No, please, no, the boy said as he ran. I was not ready for this scene to happen. I believed that the cameraman who exploded the school was a sick child murderer. As a contract killer, cameraman chased the boy who was running and went to static, ending the TV event. The new Tubbies, including myself, were shocked and scared about what happened in that TV event. It then cut to the second Tubby segment where it showed what looked to be a bowl of Tubby custard on the grass. Lovey-Dovey appeared in this scene, looks at the bowl of Tubby custard and grabs it and asks, "What's that?" The narrator then answered, "That's Tubby custard." "Drink it?" Lovey-Dovey asked curiously. No, you don't know what happened to the Tubby custard," the narrator warned. "Okay," Lovey-Dovey said as she runs off to his friends holding the bowl of Tubby custard. It cuts to the 3 new Tubbies as Lovey-Dovey runs to them. The Tubbies looked at the bowl of custard Lovey-Dovey's holding and asked, "What's that?" Tubby custard. Lovey-dovey responded. Guardian Tubby then cautioned, please don't drink the custard. It might have been poisoned by the killer. It wasn't in the usual Teletubby language as he spoke. It was in a way that an intelligent human being would say. Tubby custard poisoned? Ratter exclaimed. Yes, the tubby custard might have been poisoned. No, Vixie said worriedly. At a moment, a sudden growl was heard. It came from Ratter, meaning that he's hungry. Ratter hungry! As Ratter got insane for food, he snatched the bowl of poisoned tubby custard from Lovey-Dovey and stupidly drank it. The three Tubbies became stunned at what Ratter had just drunk from that bowl. You shouldn't have done that, Ratter! The narrator yelled restlessly. At that moment, Ratter choked, which sounds like he's about to gag. Then his eyes started to bleed out of his tear ducts as he choked and choked until I could cover my ears as it gets louder. The three Tubbies started to convincingly gasp in horror and panic at the same time as they watched Ratter dying. Ratter started coughing up blood until his head explodes in grisly detail, kind of like special effects. Told you that the Tubby custard could have been extra poisoned. As Ratter died, the three new Tubbies ran away with their incredibly fearful screams. Guardian Tubby, for some reason, grabbed the drunken Tubby custard that killed Ratter. As they ran away from the death of Ratter, they stumbled upon Poe's hanged but more bloodied body on the noose that was a realistic proportion of the magic tree. Her TV screen was shattered, however. Lovey-Dovey then anxiously asked, Who's that? That was Poe. The narrator answered. Poor Poe, Lovey-Dovey concerned. This is not a good sign, Guardian Tubby exclaimed. Uh-oh, Vixie moaned. Behind the tree was another bowl of tubby custard, which still could be poisoned. It then showed a point of view shot of what seemed to be the demonic Tinky Winky, but his vision seemed to have a red tint to it. He was hiding behind the tree, looking at the three individuals. As it stopped showing the point of view of Tinky Winky, Guardian Tubby, in questioning, got up a red wagon and put the second poisoned tubby custard in, including the first one drunken by the now-deceased Ratter. Guardian Tubby collected 2 cubby custards, the narrator said. Of course I did, Guardian Tubby spoke. At that moment, the demonic Tinky Winky, who was hiding, ran towards the 3 new Tubbies, letting out the same blood-curdling scream. Oh my goodness! Guardian Tubby screamed. I've never heard of some kind of Teletubby say goodness in a presumed to be preschool show, although that word is also used in some children's shows, if that's fine. Alas, this episode in question started to feel more like an overrated horror adventure kind of deal rather than educational and child-friendly. The 3 Tubbies ran away screaming. As the Tubbies ran, Lovey-Dovey fell over and couldn't get up. Tinky Winky then ran towards the tripped-over Lovey-Dovey, pinned the latter to the ground, and viciously mauled her to death like a killer animal. Lovey-Dovey finally died as Tinky Winky runs off. It cuts to the 2 remaining Teletubbies, Vixie and Guardian Tubby, running away screaming. At that moment, they encountered Lala's stabbed body laying next to a puddle, but the latter was a lot bloodied, and her eyes were scratched out. The puddle, however, was mixed with her blood. Yet another bowl of poisoned tubby custard was next to Lala's bloodied corpse. I think I'm gonna be sick, Guardian Tubby exclaimed. Who's that? Vixie asked scaredly. That was Lala, the narrator answered. Poor Lala, Vixie concerned. Guardian Tubby picked up the third custard and put it in his wagon. Guardian Tubby collected 3 tubby custards, the narrator said. Right, Guardian Tubby said. Again, the same demonic Tinky Winky appeared, letting out that horrible scream I'd been hearing all too much. He pushed Vixie into the bloody puddle as Guardian Tubby runs away screaming. No, please! Vixie screamed, and Tinky Winky strongly dunked Vixie's head into the bloody puddle water and let her drown as she was screaming. Vixie then died. Then cut to the Guardian Tubby running towards what seemed to be the Teletubbies' house that was still standing. Guardian Tubby found the Teletubbies' house, the neighbor said. Finally, a shelter, Guardian Tubby said in relief as he goes inside the house. Inside the house, it was not burned due to Tinky Winky almost setting the entirety on fire. The Tubby Toaster and Tubby Custard machine was still broken and on fire, including the Nunu due to the malfunction. As Guardian Tubby explored around the house, he shrieked and encountered Dipsy's beheaded corpse lying on the floor with his head on the slide. His body, however, was not burned, but more bloodied. Who was this? Guardian Tubby asked nervously. That was Dipsy, the narrator responded. Next to the decapitated body of Dipsy was again another bowl of poisoned Tubby custard. Guardian Tubby then grabbed the 4th bowl of custard and put it in the wagon that still had 3 bowls in it. Guardian Tubby collected 4 Tubby custards, the narrator said. I'm sure there's more of these. Who's this? That was next to the decapitated. The 3 bowl. I'm sure there's more of these, Guardian Tubby said in curiosity. At that moment, the demented Tinky Winky arrived again, letting out that godforsaken scream. His hat slid down the slide, scaring the crap out of Guardian Tubby. As Guardian Tubby screamed, he fell over, including his hat. As his hat came off from his head, he revealed he has no antenna. All right, who is this? Guardian Tubby frighteningly asked the narrator as he stood up. That was Tinky Winky, the narrator responded. He was responsible for the murder of his own friends, including yours as well. Oh, Guardian Tubby said, but seriously, can you help? He was intensely pushed by Tinky Winky, fracturing his limbs. I'm sorry, the narrator told Guardian Tubby concerned. There's nothing we can do, but things have to be the way they have to be. Tinky Winky then pulled out explosive C4 that came out of nowhere, activated it, and threw it at the now completely fractured and weak Guardian Tubby. No! This can't be! Guardian Tubby screamed. Please help me! No, no, no! It then displayed the door of the Teletubbies' house. As the entire house exploded, Tinky Winky strongly jumped out of the door of the house. It was insane that a slow motion effect was added in this scene. Remember then of those modern day action movies you watch your friends like the like the Paw Patrol film that was out of 2021. Whoa! I was awed, but still scared. After the explosion, the entire house was destroyed, along with the wagon that had 4 bowls of poisoned Tubby custard. Guardian Tubby was blown into pieces, and his corpse reminded me of one of those exploded and decapitated bodies you see while playing Team Fortress 2. Dipsy's beheaded and bloody corpse, however, remained the same after the explosion. It then cut to the Tubby bye-bye segment. The voice trumpet said something different. In a slow voice, it said this. Game over. It then showed the aftermath of one of the events that already happened in the first episode. And I do get to mention that there's no music at all in this scene. Firstly, it shows Ratter's headless head exploded, corpse on the grass, all covered in blood. Secondly, it showed Poe's bloodied body still hanged on the noose that was on the same realistic proportion of a magic tree, with Lovey-Dovey's viciously mauled corpse on the grass barely far from the ladder. Poe's corpse seemed to be twitching while hanged. Thirdly, it showed the shot of the bloodied puddle with Lala's stabbed body and Vixie's drowned corpse on the puddle. Lastly, as the credits roll, it showed again the Teletubbies' house destroyed to the explosion. The corpses of Dipsy and Guardian Tubby were still present. A silhouette of Tinky Winky could be seen in the far distance standing in the hills on that shot. It stayed on as the credits kept rolling, not even showing the so-called Moon Baby, who is entirely a new character at the beginning of this horrible episode. At the moment, fog came out of nowhere, overtly covering the whole shot that stayed. As it did after the credits, Tinky Winky's daunting face pops up on screen, but he looked more different. His fur was a darker and dull purple, and he was covered in blood. His black eyeless socket seemed to be dripping out blood. Alas, he lets out the same blood-curdling scream as he pops up, except it was slower, louder, distorted, and seemed to have a demonic effect added to it. I screamed loudly in extreme fright because of the intensity of the jump scare. After that, the scream cut out with an echo, and it showed the Ragdoll and BBC logos, except they were discolored into a dull and dark red ladder. That play the 1997 BBC closing logo, except it looked more worsened than before. It was still solarized and more of a dark and dull red, and the audio was even a lot deeper and demonic with the same reverb effect over it. I rerun the tape and called my mom. I've shown her the footage and she believed me. My mom and I said it was a lot worse than the last episode we've recently discovered. I have taken a few screenshots of the episode from the VHS tape before my mom burned it with this casing. After the incident, I had a nightmare where Tinky Winky introduced my bedroom in the middle of the night. He still had that disturbing, inhuman face as he arrived, letting out that familiar but loud, blood-curdling scream. I tried to get out of my bedroom, but Tinky Winky picked out a thick, sharp stick and stabbed me in the back with it. It was slow and excruciating as the stick pierced through my torso. As Tinky Winky killed me, I woke up screaming, alerting my mom for help. I was once again taken to therapy after that, and my mom phoned the Ragdoll Company about the 2 disturbing episodes of Teletubbies, which had Tinky Winky going on a murder spree and how there was a lot of grisly death scenes of one of the characters. They said that they have no clue on how the episodes were made, and writer of the 2 episodes remained unknown. You may encounter some neglected VHS tapes and DVDs of certain kids' shows with twisted and unheard episodes anywhere, but I advise you to watch one of them at your own risk. Left again, eh? Well then. We'll do a BRB.